Three. Hello again. Okay, I'm back one more time. I have Winston with me, and I have Mitchell with me.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Pretty good. And how are you, Mitchell?
Pretty good.
And we have Winston over here. And Winston, how are you?
Pretty good. Great to talk to you guys.
Yes, and we were just did an interview. This last interview, Winston was with me, and now we got Mitchell over here with us as well. So, Mitchell, you've known Winston for a while?
Yes, I actually lived in Bellingham, same town Winston has.
Bellingham, Washington, yeah.
Bellingham, Washington, so I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah, and he originally emailed me because of that, because I wrote this
Right.
article called The Bellingham Curse and how antisocial and unfriendly and it was and isolating, and he felt the same way. He got the same bad vibes, and so he emailed me, and that's how he got on my mailing list.
It was kind of weird there. It was almost like there was a darkness over that town.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle's like that too. It was there's this. It's hard to explain. It's just this um, 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 very anti-social feeling, like people just didn't want to connect with you at all. I mean, it's like that throughout a lot of America, but it's just seemed a lot stronger there than normal.
And that was up in Washington?
Yeah,
Far
yeah,
northern
Washington State.
Washington.
Yeah, the Northwest Washington State.
Okay, so then that's just how Mitchell met you to begin with, then.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, I met Winston, unfortunately, in a whole different manner, okay? And unfortunately, because of the manner that me and Winston met in, we never actually met. But we did have some controversy against each other, and I remember I said a few negative things towards Winston, and he said a few negative things back towards me. I can't blame him. And it was actually both of our own faults because we had talked to begin with that would never happened.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love, I actually love the video. It was actually comical. I mean, it was actually comical, and it was like, actually, when I watched you and I watched, what's his name, you and Wayne Holloway, it seemed like, you were the guy with the stick. You were the badass. You were the tough guy.
Well, the OTers used to say that. They said that I was like the last guy standing in a battle royal match in the ring. And they attacked Dwayne and I for a long time. And then one of the leaders of the OTers group finally came back at me and says to me, I don't like you. They wrote me an email and they says, I don't like you. You don't like me. But I absolutely have respect for you. You're like the guy in the battle royal that can't be beat. You're the last guy standing. Says, with that respect, I'm going to leave you alone. And told me to wish me a good life and let me alone, and they've been gone ever since. But so that's sort of how Winston and I met was back then, but we really didn't meet. That was the problem.
Yeah, I don't know how I met you. I think it was through Steve Hoka or something.
Well, actually, what happened back then was there was an email sent. It was a link to your form, okay, and Dwayne had caught it, and it come in on my main channel. And I looked it over, and I had a couple of questions for Dwayne, and that was on the financial part of going overseas. Remember when I told you that was my only problem I had? And
Yes.
and Dwayne had actually started talking to Winston, and I had never talked to him. So I told Dwayne to ask Winston these questions. And then Dwayne kept coming back telling me that he won't answer that. He won't answer that. And he kept going around that and kept going around that. And so that's how the controversy got started to begin with.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah,
And it
yeah,
wouldn't, it would have never gotten started if Winston and I had talked because I would have told Winston how I feel, why I feel what I feel, and he would have answered.
yeah, yeah. I never knew what the controversy or was about because it seemed like we had the same goal and the same movement, and we're trying to promote the same truth.
Well, I still have the same thing when it comes to MRA. And that's never changed. MRA dodges me big time. They run from me. If it comes to TFL and they know it's me, they run. They head the other way. None of them want to even confront me or talk to me. And so actually, so it's sort of sad because they're dealing with the same issues in a lot of ways, and their complaints over an MRA isn't going to get them anywhere because the laws that's been passed, like the Violence Against Women's Act in America, that wasn't an accident. Them politicians didn't accidentally pass these laws that discriminate against the male. That was done deliberately.
Yeah, well, after Mitchell read my Bellingham curse essay, I mean, he saw the rest of my website and he really related to it, and he was amazed. He said he was amazed too because he felt the same way about America and all these taboo truths, but he never thought that anyone else would talk about them or he published them on the website either.
Actually,
So
believe it or not, most people won't talk about it, and most people will say, "Well, it's your fault. You should have done this. You shouldn't have done that. You should carry yourself with more confidence." Blah blah blah. Which that's all irrelevant.
Yeah, they gave you the typical same cop out. So you met Winston. Did you know anything about TFL at that time, Mitchell?
No,
Okay, so you actually knew Winston before you knew about TFL.
actually, I was going through Winston's videos because I wanted to see what it was like audioly and through his YouTube videos, and that's where I came across you.
Okay.
And you were like Winston, Winston, Winston. And then you brought up TFL. I never heard of what TFL was. It almost sounded like some kind of football team,
Like a football team, huh?
like some kind of football or something, or some kind of sport.
yeah, it sounds like NFL, TFL or something. It sounds like NFL. It's funny.
I guess it does in a way when you think of TFL. I remember they did have another definition for TFL, and this came out way after True Force Loneliness TFL did, and they were using TFL, and it was Tiny Football League, and it was little kids playing football, and it was called the Tiny Football League. And when, of course,
Yeah,
when they abbreviated Tiny Football League, what did it come out with? TFL.
yeah. Bill, if you want to start, a website or a blog again, I mean, all you have to do is go to blogger.com, which is owned by Google, and just, fill out the template and start the blogger. And I mean, it's so easy that even teenagers could do it. And I mean, you're a really bright guy. You could easily figure it out if you, wanted to. And it's free too. You just have a blog under Blogspot, and you have a free site that way.
Okay, yeah, well, I've never really thought about that. I do so much, but I've never given any thought about that. The
Well, if you're
actual,
going to reach out to people, I mean, the website is important because, you know, so a lot of people can see it.
yeah, well, I've reached out to a whole lot of people and made it globally without a website.
It just helps, because then you can put up your podcasts, your articles, and you can post a new blog article whenever you want, and it's all free if you do it under Blogger. And then people like me could link to it. I mean, see, I already have a movement with, like 70 or 80,000 people visiting my website every month, and so we could cross promote each other and get even more awareness.
Yeah, that's something I'll have to give some thought on. And so,
Can I
Mitchell,
tell you something? I'm sorry. I want to tell you something honestly. I actually looked at that Happier Abroad website almost like the Bible.
okay, so when you got on there and you was looking at his stuff, so
Yeah,
now
like
Well, I
my
was
that,
ebook.
looking at because I was able to relate to it, how people are here in the States, how people interact with each other, and what it's like not being able to relate to people here.
right now, I know Winston said he was born, over in Toka or over in Taiwan?
Yeah,
And when did you move to the States then?
when I was 3 years old.
Oh, well, so then you grew up in the States.
Yeah, I sent you a long time ago my kindergarten photos when you didn't believe that I was a U.S. citizen. I sent that to you, and also I scanned a copy of my passport too.
Okay, so you
You
grew up
should see me, in the late '70s. I mean, everyone in my class looked so innocent and so natural. I think Mitchell, you've seen those photos, right?
No,
Oh, oh, that's right. Yeah, I think you were under. Well, I think you're on my mailing list, right? So you probably saw those
Yes.
class photos from the 70s, the elementary school photos and stuff.
The
But
ones I
people just look
really
very
enjoyed
different.
was the ones I really enjoyed from your mailing list is the ones you would actually break it down and using really good social psychology, breaking down why it is that we're living the way we are here in the States, and why it is that we experience this type of alienation. And it kind of intrigued me and it kind of fascinated me because I was able to relate to it because I have a hard time relating to people.
Yeah, I mean, you can figure out the why, all you want, but understanding why isn't gonna, lead to happiness or solutions. I mean, you gotta
No.
figure out what's gonna make you the most happy and the most free. I mean, like I told Bill during the interview before, the most important thing is to find an environment where you can be yourself and be appreciated for who you are. Um, like for me, I mean, I like to meet women. I like to flirt, and so the best environment for me would be one where I could do that every day and not feel like a creep or some type of bad person or
I
villain.
feel I feel the same way too. And the thing is you kind of really touched an area where I was actually really able to relate to, and I believe it or not, sometimes felt the same exact thing. You go out there, you try to be, gregarious and flirtatious or open with strange women, and it makes you feel like, oh my God, I must be this horrible person.
Yeah, and it's just so invalidating. I mean, it's almost like everyone has rehearsed. They don't have to intentionally be mean. It's like everyone has this programming where they're automatically unfriendly without even thinking about it. Like it's a normal thing,
It's almost like they're
and it's really
programmed to do
sad.
so.
Yeah, it's like a knee-jerk reaction. It's kind of
It's
like when you touch fire and move your hand away. You don't think about it. It's an automatic reaction to be unfriendly.
right. And so
It's
Mitchell,
really weird.
Mitchell, how did you go about meeting women overseas?
No, I just, knew some people like, online through my Facebook, and we just connected, and I, just, met one in Ireland, met one in England, and
So you actually met the women overseas through Facebook itself.
yes, one of them, yes.
Okay, you didn't go on no online dating site for foreign women or anything.
No.
So how are they different when you talk to them?
Well, they're in a way they're different because like they're not going to judge you on things that you would be judged on here in America. Like let's say like over here, oh my God, you came on too strong. Over here, you could express your passion, your feelings. They're not going to like pull away because of it. They're not going to be rejected because of it as much. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, and plus these are women that are not from poor countries, so I mean they don't need your money too, so that's a really good thing. I mean, it makes the relationship more equal and authentic.
One of them would always send me Christmas gifts, mail them to me.
Yeah, so these aren't women that are poor and need your money. I mean, that makes it a
No,
lot more authentic and more genuine.
it's not really a, believe it or not. Economically, in some ways, they might be doing better than we are because the British pound is actually has a higher value than the USD.
And so these women are pretty down to earth and intelligent and easy to talk to and
Much easier.
isn't it like so smooth? Like it just flows a lot more smooth. Um, Everything just feels more smooth. It's like you don't have to make it happen. It just happens naturally. Kind of like when we're talking right now. It just everything just,
Exactly.
just just flows in a natural way.
Well, but that's how it should be to begin with because if you think about it, when you was a little kid and you went to school and you were in elementary school, you talked to the other girls just like you talked to the other boys as a little kid, and you never give it no thought because you was a little kid, okay? And then suddenly when you got older, there was an issue talking to these girls.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, when you're little, I mean, it's like anything goes. You just be yourself and say whatever you think, and then later there's these issues, there's these walls, there's these cliques, and everyone is judgmental and everyone is afraid and it just I mean I just never knew what happened. You know, when I grew up, it was just like how did everything get so complicated? You know?
Yeah, I know. That's see, that was one of the things that always before I started TFL, when actually started digging in and researching, because one of the things I went after was I started researching myself because I wanted to find out why. Okay, because here you are as a little kid, and you talk openly, freely with all the girls and the boys, and there was never an issue. And then suddenly, when you got older, there was all these everything Winston just said, and then you go through the rejection, and you go through the rejection, and you go through the rejection. Then you're trying to figure out why, what happened, what went wrong, and so you go looking. And when I started TFL, I started researching and researching and researching, and I was looking for what caused it, why. And the deeper I dug, the more it led right back up to the top. And it was sad because then it dawns on you as you start researching that all this stuff that was deliberately done into society, it was deliberately done. And I couldn't get that in people's heads at first when I realized how much government involvement there was in the dating scene. People thought you're nuts. There ain't no government involvement in the dating scene when there is. And so all the division that was created was from the top down. But, when we're little kids, we don't know this stuff. How would we know this stuff? So I'm sure like with Winston, or Mitchell, even Mitchell, both of you is probably like me. You grew up, you talked to all the other little kids in the classroom, girls and all, no big deal. And then when you suddenly got older, there was all these walls right in the way. And then you've been trying to fight through these walls ever since.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of kids, even among my own relatives and family friends. I've seen them when they were really friendly when they were little kids, and then suddenly when they became teenagers, they became so cold and unfriendly, and they didn't want to talk to me anymore. Whereas when they were little kids, they were so friendly and so social and so playful. And then once they grew up, they were so it was like this barrier. They became cold and cliquish, and it felt like you just couldn't connect with them. Like there was some problem, like they were too cool for you or too good for you or something. And it was just so weird. It's like I've seen so many kids turn into something different once they grow up. I mean, I don't know why it has to be that way because on TV people look so friendly and when they grow up together they're still friends as adults and when they're kids. But in real life, most people that grow up don't want to talk to you once they're grown up, even if they were your friends when you were
Well, yeah,
when they were
with
kids.
an exception of an old series called Different Strokes. Gary Coleman.
Yeah, that was a great show. Yeah.
Gary Coleman, unfortunately, grew up, stayed short, okay? He was actually older in the series than what he looked for his age. He stayed really short when he grew up. He was 40 years old now, and he was on this TV special, and they were mocking and laughing at him because he was still a virgin. And the sad thing about Gary Coleman is he only had one person in his life, the girl that married him, and they didn't even have no intimate relationship because she wouldn't have an intimate relationship with him.
Well,
But
then why
yet she was
marry
his
him?
wife. I think Gary, she was only with him for one reason, because of who he was, the stats, the fame. And it was sad because Gary was being nothing but used. So that's a young boy that grew up in Hollywood and grew up as an adult and was basically stereotyped out and pushed out of society. And I'm sure being black didn't help him any because of the racism in his country. And then, of course, the typical stereotypes and what happens with them walls that we're just talking about. And there he was, stuck in this life. And so I've always felt so bad for him because I know that Gary Coleman actually had a really hard life.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, he was so funny, in that show. I mean, and it was a good show because people showed a lot of emotions and problems in that show that were very realistic.
Yeah. So it was sad because Gary Coleman, now he's passed away. And even when he passed away, that wife was right there to go after his estate. And she had divorced him. And she still wanted his estate.
But wouldn't do anything with him.
Exactly.
Gary Coleman also starred in other movies, like other series. Actually starred in Buck Rogers, the series Buck Rogers.
Yeah, I think he was in one episode. I remember
Actually,
that.
a few of them.
Yeah, that's
it,
sad.
it's like when he was little, he was considered cute, but once he grew up, he wasn't, valuable to Hollywood anymore. So.
Yeah, well, it's like he wasn't not just not valuable to Hollywood no more. He was now basically just like so many guys, pushed and stereotyped out. And unfortunately, look at gender roles. They taught females that the man is the protector and provider. And if you look at protector and provider, he had maybe the provider aspect because of the fame, right? But the protector aspect he wouldn't have because he was short and most females would look at him. I mean, if you look at Hollywood itself, you don't see females that are as tall as the guy or taller than the guy on TV. It's always the guy's taller than the female. So this is an image that people grow up seeing. And if the woman's taught from the time she's a child that the guy's the protector and provider, then if she's looking for a protector and provider, she's going to look for a guy that's bigger than herself and somebody that looks like they could defend her. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and that's a good point because see, women naturally want to protect her, and they want someone stronger than her, and men naturally keep it down, want a princess to protect. But in American society, they flipped men and women upside down. They made men more feminine and women more masculine, and so that totally screws up the relationship. I mean, if a guy is more feminine and passive than a woman, then he can't be a protector. And if a woman's more masculine, then she can't be a princess to rescue. Because she's
Yeah.
not even feminine. So, I mean, what can you do? I mean, everything is just flipped the opposite of the way it's supposed to be.
Yep, that's exactly it. Then what you just said there also goes in with Gary Coleman. Then when you look at his size, a lot of women will automatically frown down at that he couldn't really protect me. See what I'm saying?
I knew when I was in high school, guys that were shorter than me, because I'm only about 5'4". I've known guys that were shorter than me that had no problem meeting women back then.
Yeah, well, maybe they had some type of charisma or something.
But what it is, I think what it is I think people now are more superficial than they would have been, let's say, 3 or 4 decades ago.
Oh, definitely, definitely. There's not a doubt about that. If you go
Like
back
if
3
I'm,
or 4
let's say
decades ago.
I'm a small guy, but let's say I'm still reasonably good looking, good facial features, you still wouldn't have a problem.
Hey.
But
Yeah,
today,
I mean, Michael J. Fox was short, but he was, a good-looking guy too, and he got women, I'm sure. So, I think Michael J. Fox is only 5'4" or something too, or
but
5'5".
but for some reason, and so's what's his name, Tom Cruise.
Well, no, I think he's at least 5'7" or 5'8".
Actually, actually, his shorter is about like 5'5" or something.
You mean without heels?
Yeah. But
I don't know. He would never say that publicly that he's 5'5" though. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, he looks at least 5'7" or 5'8".
You know what? I met one time the mayor of Albuquerque, New Mexico. When you saw him on TV, he looked like a big, tall guy. But when you met him in person, he was a short, little guy.
Yeah, maybe the camera does that, or you wear heels.
The camera can make you look much bigger than what you are. But for some reason, we've become extremely superficial here compared to other places. And I think that plays a big part in it.
Well, I'm sure that does.
we are superficial in this country to the extreme.
Yeah, well, especially women. I mean, men aren't that superficial. I mean, they just want a girl that's nice, you know. They're not even that. Most American men aren't even that hung up on looks. It's the women that are super picky.
Oh
And
well, that right there, what Winston just said is so true. And I've seen so many people try to flip that around and say women ain't about looks. It's the men that's about looks. And when you look at the reality, yeah, there's some men about looks, but I'll tell you what, the women are a lot more picky about looks than a man is.
Far more. And it's something I've observed myself.
But you know, it's that old cliche, you got to cover up the woman's wrongs, okay, and blame everything back onto the man.
yeah, and that's just wrong because it's not truthful. I mean,
You're correct. It is wrong, and it isn't truthful at all. But look at the sitcoms on TV in America. Male bashing has become a norm. If you actually watch all the different commercials and some of the sitcoms, you will see male bashing. I mean, big time male bashing. And if you was to flip them roles around, the women would be up in arms. They would be pissed. They would not want to be made out to be that way in the public's eyes.
They would have a revolution.
Yeah. And but in the public's eyes, when it comes to men, men are actually male bashed regularly. I mean, look at what happened when Morena Bobbitt cut off her husband's penis. The first time that ever happened. She actually became idolized by all the women. The majority of women in the States, here in the States, idolized her. She was like an instant star because she cut off her husband's penis. And then when you had that other woman that tied her husband to the bed, drugged him and tied him to the bed and sliced it off and dropped it in the garbage disposal, what happened then? You had 4 or 5 adult women get up on the talk show on ABC and laugh and mock, and it was so funny how she cut off his penis. It was just a big old joke. But now if you turn that,
about it.
yeah, that was sick. If you had turned that around and that if some guy would have drugged his female and cut off her breast or something, this whole country would have been an outrage. They would have been pissed.
yeah, it's a really sick society. And you know, I get the sense. I wrote about this in the forum once that most American women look very angry, like they want to explode. And when they argue with you, they act like they have a right to win the argument. Like you are obligated to let them win. And if I don't let them win, they look really outraged, like I totally upset their world by not letting them win the argument.
That is true. The same as the women do not handle rejection very well at all. You ever see a woman get rejected by a guy? She does not handle that good at all. But yet she has no problem with rejecting guy after guy.
Yeah, and you know, last time you guys had an interview, and Mitchell was saying that you can meet girls if you go out and do what you love. I later told him that is still a very low probability way, because even if you go out and do stuff, I was involved in a modeling agency and an acting agency a long time ago, and I met a lot of girls there. So even if you do something and you're meeting a lot of girls, 99% of them are still gonna just want to be friends. So you know, it's like everything is against you. It's a low probability either way.
That is actually true.
So yeah, it's like even in the best case scenario, if you meet a lot of girls, that most of them will still want to be friends. And even if you connect with them and have a lot in common with them, they're still going to think that they want someone better, or you're not good enough, or whatever. I mean, they'll always find some excuse. Like I could go to a new age group, I can meet girls there, and I mean, there's not a lot of young women at new age groups, but even when there's some, you know, they'll just be friendly, and you know, and they'll just want to be friends. But if you ask them for a drink later, or go for a walk later, I mean, automatically their defenses will go up and say, oh no, I can't, I'm too busy, or I have to work, or I have a boyfriend, or I just got out of a relationship and I don't want to see anyone right now. There's always some excuse.
It even happens when you're good looking.
Yeah, it's like they're programmed to just automatically reject any guy, even if you have a lot in common with them. So even if you're in the best case scenario, you still lose. I mean, most of the time that is. It's like in order to get a girl, you have to be lucky.
I wonder why they're programmed like that. I wonder how that's done. I wonder how that's done.
I think a lot of that comes through the fashion industry and the modeling. It's what's represented on TV when they're growing up, and it's what's in the one of the old sayings that is true. A guy's pornography is in the magazine, Pit House Cherry, Hustler. You know what I'm saying? A woman's pornography is in the love romance books. And there's a lot of women who read love romance books. And if you read some of these love romance stories, they're full of drama and they're full of image.
It's not really about true romance. It's more about image, and it's more about shallow stuff.
Yes, exactly. And that's a lot of the reason this has happened. That's why I said you look at the social conditioning machine, because the social conditioning machine is responsible for 90% of the behavior that we're seeing. But you got to remember, when I say social conditioning machine, I'm talking about everything straight across the board, from the magazines, the newspapers, the books, the love romance books, what's played on TV, what's in the music. How many love songs do you hear where it's always singing about the woman?
Yeah, the love songs nowadays are like guys that are desperate or missing somebody, or like that Shania Twain song. Remember, it goes, "That don't impress me much."
Yeah,
She's acting like she's too good for you or something.
exactly.
It's hard to get.
That's it. That's what I was talking about when I say social conditioning machine. It's a combination of everything, but you got to, when you look at the reality of the combination of everything added together, you have actually placed the woman in a spot that gives her a high ego, if you know what I'm saying. And through that high ego becomes power, because she recognizes she has a power over you. And what is one thing that we know about power and greed? It absolutely corrupts.
Yeah, but I don't think it's just about power, because Mitchell said his mom was a feminist who believed in women's suffrage and in women voting, but she didn't like the hateful attitudes of women in America.
Yes,
No,
well,
no,
yes.
It's a different kind of feminism.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. I totally understand that. Now, I didn't say it was strictly about power, but you got to understand that's a percentage of the problem. It's not the whole problem. The image is also a big factor in it, like what Mitchell just brought up when I was telling you about the image. See, that's why I say it's a combination of things. But when you look at the social conditioning machine in reality, you see where the problems came from.
Remember that woman that tried to get what was the guy who was running for Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas, for the sexual harassment?
Yeah.
My mom saw that, and her words was, "Why did you wait all that time to come out with that?" So she was actually against these women that were on these pseudo power trips.
Yeah, that was pretty vicious. So you see,
I mean,
even if you get a woman in America, I mean, it's still a lot of drama in your life.
It is.
It's not a peaceful life, because I mean, not all, but a lot of these girls are itching for drama. If you don't give them drama, they'll start some drama. They'll argue about something little, and then they'll blame it on you. It's like you can't have a peaceful life with them.
it's like with even a woman in like England or Europe, just go out, have some dining, just do things together, just have a romantic time, and as long as you're not like a drunk, or as long as you're reasonably about something, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason in this country, no matter what you do, it's like a losing battle.
Well, it's like a rock and a hard spot. You're fighting to be born. One of my statements a long time ago was, if you're born with a hole between your legs, and this is not to be sexist, but it's true. In America, if you're born with a hole between your legs, your life is pretty much handed to you. If you're born with a dick between your legs, your life is pretty much dicked over.
Yeah, and if you look at couples outside in public in America, I mean, it looks like the man is afraid of the woman. I mean, they don't look. He doesn't even look that happy. He just looks like he's in fear and kind of passive. Like he has to do what she says. So.
He's always in fear of losing her.
Yeah, or being yelled at by her, you know.
Well, that's it. He's more in fear of losing her because of all the hardship he does to get a female in his life. He don't want to have to be back to square one again. Okay, he does not want to be back to square one again, so he winds up pacifying the female. Okay, it's sad, but this is exactly what we're seeing going on. And so he ends up becoming pussy whipped.
Yeah, so even if he doesn't love her, or if they're not compatible, he still clings because he doesn't want to go back to square one. And I know what that's like because it's like having the wrong person is better than nothing.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's sad.
Deep down, he knows if he's back in square one, he can't do anything because you can't just go out and get another girlfriend or wife. Because like I said, nobody wants to meet you out there. I mean, people are hostile and unfriendly, so there's just no way you can just get another girlfriend if you lose one. I mean, it could take years. It could be never. You'd have to hope that you're lucky somehow. And that sucks because who wants to depend on luck? It's like trying to win a jackpot in a slot machine. I mean, it's out of your control.
We're not in control at all about it. And here's another factor is women that are more around our age, and even for younger guys, there's even less women, as far as the ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After, like, we were born after the baby boom, so because due to the fact that we're born after the baby boom, that's when the ratio of men to women, evened out. So you're actually also dealing here with a numbers crunch.
Yeah. But I know.
It's. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I know what he's talking about. But go ahead, Winston.
No, I was just saying that statistically, there's supposed to be 50% men and 50% women. So I don't know why it seems like there's more single men looking than single women looking. Very bizarre.
Well, it's harder for the guys, so you're going to have a lot more guys looking. You'll actually have, it's not that there isn't single women, but if you really look around you, like in the States, you'll find out there's actually more single men than there is women.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, because supposedly it's supposed to be 50-50, both genders.
But it's not 50, but it's not 50-50. Did you ever watch Douchebag 101?
No, I just mean the demographics say that, but it doesn't seem like it.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the reason I'm asking. If you ever watch Douchebag 101, there's a female who posted up a video, and it's called Douchebag Math 101. And it's up on YouTube. If you go watch that video, you'll see clearly, and I agree with her 100% of what she said and what she pointed out. Because what she said and pointed out is true. It is very true. And that's why the numbers are where they're at.
What did she say, though?
She points out how the majority of women, when they're young, are chasing after the douchebags, which is true. Okay? And she points it out and she shows you it. And it's absolutely true. And the percentage is high. A high majority of the women do chase after the douchebags. And then so the nice guys, this is what you get to say in America, which is true. Nice guys come in last. And it's very, very true.
Yeah, that's just so dysfunctional.
It is. Okay, it is very dysfunctional. It's not right, but it's the way our society is. That's why when we talked about a toxic society, that's what America is. It's a very toxic society. It's like it's like living in a nightmare.
Yeah, and if you're sane and nice and authentic, then you just don't fit in.
Yep, exactly. So see, that would be a good one if you ever got time, Winston. Just when you're on YouTube, in the YouTube search, type in douchebag math 101.
I watched the video and I thought it was great.
Yep, I think I showed Mr. Mitchell about it, and he went and watched it. She did a very excellent job. What she said is absolutely true.
It had to do more or less with how the breakdown of our society. It had to do with a lot of how things changed from the 70s to now, and at one point, most women wanted a guy that would treat them right and be about something. But nowadays, if you're like some real piece of shit, you're going to prevail. I'm not even talking bad boy. I'm talking total piece of shit.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true.
I mean, if I'm a bad boy, I'm a bad boy. A bad boy would be people that would be someone like myself, who's kind of more of a like free thinker, nonconformist. Maybe bend the rules a little bit. That's a bad boy. But these women are after like these guys that are like just total 100% pieces of shit.
Yeah, they are. And and if you get a questioning these women, why are you chasing after these types of guys? To them, it's the challenge. It's the challenge to change him, and that's a double-edged sword because if she successfully changes him, she dumps him because now she sees him as weak. And if she don't change him, then she gets frustrated with him and dumps him because now he's an asshole.
Yeah, so either way, you lose.
Exactly. That's exactly it. That's why I said it's a double-edged sword because it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, and if you're too nice, they dump you, and if you're not nice, then they could use that against you too. So
Exactly. Then that's
it's
used
like
against you too.
it's just insane because you can't win. I mean, you can't be a good person and keep them because that's not what they want. And someone in my forum brought up a really good point that if you're a nice and genuine person, the reason they don't like you is because it shows. It's like a mirror. It shows them how bad they are, and they don't want to face that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That is true. But it is absolutely true. That's why I said, that would be something you might want to watch, Winston, because I give this gal all hands up, and I told Mitchell about it, and he went and watched it, and what she told you and what she shows you is the absolute truth. There's no manipulation in it. The only thing I could do is give her all hands up for that presentation because she did a beautiful job.
Yeah, maybe you could post those videos in the forum and get everyone's take on it.
But douchebag math 101, it was an excellent video. It really depicts exactly how things have gone wrong with the dating scene for many men.
Yeah, it does, and it shows it. She's trying to encourage the women to go to back up, but I don't think they're going to listen. But her presentation in that video was spot on. She was so correct about everything she said, and that's where you'll get your answer to the number difference because it's not 50-50 at all, Winston, and it hasn't been 50-50 in a long time.
It's 80-20.
Yes.
So that must mean there's a lot of women that aren't even looking.
Well, the problem is the percentage of women that when you got 80% of the women chasing 20% of the females, there's a lot of them women that they're single because they keep turning guys down because they want the same type of guy that the other girls are getting. And then you see girls fighting over a guy, and that's the reason they're fighting over the guy. It's because they're all chasing after that same guy, the same type. You know what I'm saying? So then what ends up happening is the type that is not the type that they're chasing, well, they're immediately rejected. They're rejected in 1 to 5 seconds.
Yeah, but you can't.
Even when you say hi to a woman when you're out there, you're saying hi, even in a public place. I mean, you could basically tell within the first second just by the tone of voice where you stand.
Oh, yes, you're right. You're correct.
I mean, if the voice kind of has a monotone or kind of a bittersweet to it, you automatically knows that that's it.
Well,
Yeah,
then
it's
there's
the
the
body
body.
language.
There's the body language.
The body language is everything because
Oh, it sure is.
women that are approachable have a totally different body language and vibe than women that are not approachable.
Yep. When you've been rejected enough times, you learn body language really well. You know when they're stereotyping you out as they're stereotyping you out.
Yeah, it's not just that, but the body language shows whether they're open to being approached or not. I mean,
Yeah, well, it does. But is there stereotyping you once you've been rejected enough? You actually physically see it in the body language. And once you start physically seeing it in the body language, you realize, whoa, that pretty soon what happens is when a girl's rejecting you, you haven't even approached her yet, but you see the body language, you already know. You already know the answer.
yeah, she's looking away because if a woman wants to talk to you, she'll make eye contact, and her body language will be very relaxed, like no fear, no tension. They'll just be looking at a friend, looking at each other.
Yeah.
Like when I met a lot of women in Russia, it was just like that. They just look at you. There's no fear, no tension. But you don't get that body language here. It's like here they look away and they turn their shoulder away.
Yep.
You can't even say hi to them.
Oh yeah, or you get that body language in the face, their facial expression. Their facial expression will tell on them.
Yeah, because if you look at them, they know you're looking at them. They can see it in the corner of their eye, and so they look away and turn away um and it's weird that a lot of them dress in this provocative manner, like they want the attention. They want people to look at their bodies, but they don't want anyone to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just really sad because it's like all look and no touch like that.
Yep, exactly.
Like you said in one of your forums, Winston, it's like giving an infant like a lollipop and then pulling it away from them.
Yeah, or well, I think I said a kid in the candy store, but you can't buy any of the candy or touch it. I think that's what I said. I used that analogy.
There was one of them like to use an analogy where it's like giving a kid like a big lollipop, and then right as the kid's ready to put it in his mouth, you yank it away from him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, yeah, maybe, but I mean, if they don't talk to you or make eye contact, then you don't even hold the lollipop in the first place. It's kind of like looking at something behind the glass that you can't touch. I mean, if I gave you a lollipop, you would be able to touch it. You see, but that's different than a woman that doesn't want to talk to you or look at you.
They're like completely out of reach.
Yeah. It's sad,
Yeah.
but this is where we're gone, so there's not a lot you're gonna, I have to go back and there's a KBG agent. Okay, now this is off topic, but not off topic because what his saying was is true. Okay, to turn this situation around would take 3 to 4 generations. It wasn't done overnight, and you cannot turn it back around overnight.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the quote in my signature says that you can't change your society. The only thing you can do is find a society that's compatible with you.
Yeah, well, to change society could be done, but it's very hard to do, and it would take 3 to 4 generations just to get it done, if you could get it done. You could get it done if you could have control over mainstream media, okay, in your books and magazines. Then you could actually flip society back around, but it would still take 3 to 4 generations. But as long as you don't got control over them
if we were trying to
things,
turn it around now, it probably would not be turned around till well into the 22nd century.
exactly, and you would have to have
like 2120 something.
Yep, and you would have to have control over the mainstream media to accomplish it.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't put out that much energy either. I mean, you need a lot of people, and it's just, when you're past 30 years old, life just becomes more precious. You just don't want to waste any more years.
Oh,
doing
I
something
know what you're
futile.
talking about. I know what you're talking about. I'm 52 years old, so you know.
So yeah, it's like every year becomes precious. You start to, if you were 19 years old, I mean, you could waste a couple of years and not feel guilty about it. But once you pass 30 or 35, every year just becomes too precious to waste anymore.
Yep, exactly. But hey, guys, I appreciate the time. I'm going to go ahead and stop the interview.
Okay.